Hi, my name is Becky May from Frond Yoga, and today I'd like to share with you a practice that I've designed for two of my students, Cathie and Pete. And the main intention for this practice is just overall flexibility for kind of tight bodies and also an awareness of core strength. So it's a beginner level, accessible practice and a really nice kind of daily practice or home practice to do a few times a week. Okay, so we start on our hands and knees. For this practice you might want to have a yoga brick and a strap, depending if you have tight shoulders. You might need the strap, but other than that you don't need anything. Okay, so hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, and we just start to wake up the body, mobilising the spine with some cat-cow. So try and synchronise breath and movement. So as you inhale, lift the tailbone, allow the belly to drop, draw the shoulders back and look up, stretching the front of the chin and the chest, and exhale, draw the tailbone under, push through the hands to stretch the skin of the upper back to the ceiling and draw the chin to the chest. So just keep that going, matching breath with movement, inhaling into the cow where we get that lovely front opening, looking up, exhale into the cat, stretching the back body, contracting the front body, looking down. Just a couple more rounds with your breath rhythm, trying to start the movement at the base of the spine and finish it with the head and the eyes as well, so looking up at the top of the inhale, looking down the tip of the nose and at the end of the exhale. When you finish your next round, at the end of your next exhale, just come back to a neutral spine. We're going to work with core awareness here, so before we move, just lift your navel up to the spine, connect to your deep core, deep postural muscles, and draw up on the pelvic floor so you feel a kind of stability in your lower belly, a kind of hollowing out feeling. And then with that switched on, stretch your right leg out behind you. Doesn't need to be high, hip distance, hip height rather, and see if you can internally rotate the right leg so the toes point towards the floor, not out to the side. Check the belly's not sagging, lift the navel up to the spine. If this is enough, stay there, otherwise add the left arm. So we take the left arm forward and we end up in the diagonal stretch. Breathe fully, keep drawing the navel up to the spine, drawing on the pelvic floor. Release if you need, otherwise 3 pulses. We're going to exhale, draw the elbow and the knee together underneath us. Inhale, fully extend. Exhale, squeeze, contracting the front body, using the core. Inhale, we extend. So again, use it with your breath rhythm. And after your third extension, just release, and because that's quite heavy work on the wrists, we'll just take a little child's pose here. So drop the hips onto the heels and lift up onto the fingertips so the wrists are stretching up towards the ceiling to decompress that right wrist. And just take a few breaths in child's pose, knees together or slightly apart if that's better for you. Breathing into the back body. Try and let the head rest on the floor or a block if needed. One more deep breath. And then we'll come up for the other side, so returning to hands and knees. Again, before we move, find the core connection, draw the navel up to the spine, draw up on the pelvic floor, like everything's drawing together deep in the body. And then stretch your left leg out behind you in line with the hip, and again internally rotate so the toes point down. Try not to lose the core connection. Stay here, pressing out through that left heel, engaging the left leg, or add the right arm for a diagonal stretch. So as much as we push out through the left heel, we're reaching forward through the right fingertips, feeling this line of stretch through the body. Keeping the core engaged, and again release if you need, otherwise 3 pulses with the breath. Exhale, elbow and knee come together, trying to keep that left foot high. Inhale, fully extend again. Exhale, squeeze everything together underneath you. Inhale, extend, keep the back of the neck low. Exhale, squeeze. Inhale, extend. And then again release, and one more time just taking that child's pose to decompress the wrist, and because it's really good for the back, for the hips. Dropping the head, breathing into the lower back with the head supported on the floor or a block. And then coming up from tabletop, we're just going to take a downward dog. So have your hands slightly in front of the shoulders, tuck the toes, lift the hips up, and find this triangular shape with the body. So feet are hip distance apart, we spread the toes, If the body is tight, we bend the knees as much as we need, and we're trying to open up the shoulders and the upper back by pressing through the hands and taking the chest towards the thighs to create openness and space in the upper back. So if the body's tight, just let this unfold in its own time. We might look quite different. We might not look like a triangle yet. It might be more rounded back and shoulders further forward. But just trust that over time and repetition, the body opens up in its own time. Just focus on going to your edge and taking some slow, deep breaths. Take one more breath if you can, fully inhaling through the nose, fully exhaling through the nose. And at the end of the exhale, we're going to walk the hands back to the feet. So bend the knees as much as you need. See if you can find that walking feeling through the palms of the hands. And then we end up in a standing forward fold at the back of the mat. So the feet are parallel and directly underneath the hips. And again, we bend the knees as much as we need, protecting, it's making sure we don't pop a hamstring. We don't want to overstretch. So protect your hamstrings, drop the head, just let the arms dangle, or nice to hold the opposite elbow and just let the back of the neck be long. You might feel more stable with the hands resting on the legs, but otherwise just letting the torso hang heavy, the back of the neck be relaxed, maybe even a little bit of movement in the upper body, gently back and forth or side to side, just to encourage the release around the spine, the vertebra, breathing into the back of the body, the back of the legs. Okay, I'm going to come out of this via a deep squat, so bring the hands to the hips, take a nice deep bend into the legs and stretch the hands forward, just parallel, arms parallel to the floor. And see if we can again connect to our deep core here. So we try and draw the tailbone under rather than sticking it out behind us. And that's going to help us draw the navel in and connect to our deep postural muscles. Ground through the heels, the soles of the feet. One more breath. And then inhale, run out of space above me, to stretch up and your hands all the way up above the head if you've got space. I know Cathie and Pete don't and I don't. And then exhale, release the hands to the side. Great, so we're just going to do a few standing postures and then come down to the floor. So we'll start with the right foot in front, and we're going to take the left foot quite far back, and the left toes are going to be in front of the heels, and more or less our heels are in line. You might want to take the right foot just ever so slightly out to the right, half a foot's width, so you've got a little bit more of a broad base here. And then just take your hands onto your hips and square the hips to the front of the mat. So if we're tight in the hips, for most of us that's going to mean encouraging this left hip forward. And then we take a nice deep bend in the right leg, making sure the right knee is above the ankle or behind, not in front. And then we inhale, raise the hands. And as we raise the hands, we're in warrior one here. We try and find that connection between pressing back through the little toe edge of the back foot and reaching up through the fingertips. Feel that line of stretch through the body. Keep trying to draw the tailbone under, draw the navel in, just keep connecting to the core, lifting on the pelvic floor. Hands can be together, or if the shoulders are tight, shoulder width apart. The balance allows looking up. Take one more deep breath here. Great. And then we're going to swap sides, so you have options. If you want to kind of work the front thigh, and it's okay to do thigh loading or knee loading, we can take a big step forward with the left foot, arrive at the front of the mat, bring the hands down and swap sides like that. But if your knee doesn't allow that kind of loading, we just pivot and come to face the other side. Okay, so either way, we've got the left foot forward now, the toes of the right foot are in front of the heel, heels are more or less in line, or left foot slightly wider. Press and ground down through the little toe edge of the right foot as you reach and stretch the fingertips up, looking up if it's okay for your neck. Nice broad open chest, dropping the tailbone, drawing up on the pelvic floor, and breathe deep. So really we find the shape, and then our work is to breathe as expansively as we can, so we start to stretch and open the body from within as well as making the shapes. Dropping that tailbone, lifting on the pelvic floor. One more breath. And then again, we can release the hands and we can front load the front leg and step the right foot forward, or just an easier way if the knees are dodgy is to turn to the side and just walk the feet in like that. Okay, we're going to come to warrior two now. So again, we've got the right foot forward and the left foot back, nice wide stance, but this time, rather than the hips facing forward, we're bringing them round to face the long edge of the mat, so it's an open hip position here. Again, heels in line, right knee above the ankle or behind, left toes if we can slightly in front of left heel, or at least in line. Reach the fingertips out either side and look forward over your middle right finger. And breathe. And again, see if we can find that quality of dropping the tailbone, connecting to our deep core, navel to spine, and lifting on the pelvic floor. So always through this practice, keeping a connection with our deep core, and over time that will build. So even if you don't feel much yet, just keep trying, keep putting your awareness there. Deep breaths. So if your shoulders are tight, they might be up around the ears. See if you can draw the shoulders down, draw the shoulder blades down the spine, free up the space around the ears, stretch dynamically through the fingertips. One more deep breath. And then this time we're just going to pivot. So on your next inhale, straighten the right leg, turn the right foot in, turn the left foot all the way out. Make sure the hips haven't followed. Keep the hips facing long edge of the mat. Bend the left leg. Again, just check your left knee. Is it above the ankle or behind? If it's in front, like this, it's too much load on the knee. Okay, so really widen the stance if needs be. Look over that left middle finger into the kind of middle distance. Draw the shoulder blades down the spine. Reconnect to your deep core. We have to keep returning there to check, are we connected? Is the pelvic floor drawing up, the perineum? Is the navel drawing back to the spine? Is the tailbone dropping down? Or am I sticking my bum out behind me and overarching in the lower back? We don't want to do that. One more deep breath. And then inhale to straighten the left leg. And then just simply turn the left foot in. So we're still in a nice wide stance, and now the outer edges of the feet are parallel, and we bring the hands onto the hips. So it might even be that your toes are slightly turned in. Draw the shoulders back. Inhale, look up to the chest, look up to the ceiling to open the chest. Exhale, we're hinging at the front, at the hinge of the body. We're hinging at the hips and folding forward. So again, if the body's tight, you might need to bend the knees here. You might also, this might be a time when a yoga brick could be handy, because if the floor feels very far away, you can bring the floor higher by taking the hands onto a brick, remembering it has 3 heights, so any of its 3 heights. And then when we find the floor, and our deepest fold, we drop the head, so the knees might need to be bent still, absolutely fine, but see if you can stay connected to your feet, really spread the toes, press down actively, and once again, this core connection. So when we're inverted like this, it should feel like almost like a hollowing out feeling in the belly as we draw up on the pelvic floor and draw the navel back to the spine. Maybe a slight feeling of hollowness and an ability to breathe more into the upper chest as we kind of stabilise the lower belly. So just explore that core connection. One more deep breath. Okay, and then to come out of this, just press through the hands to straighten the arms. You might need to bend the knees a little bit, bring the hands to the hips, press through the feet and come up with a flat back. And then just step the feet together. Okay. So we're coming down to the floor now, so just come down however's appropriate for you. If you do want to get to the point where you're flowing down, it would be an inhale, stretch the hands up, and exhale, hinge at the hips, bring the hands to the floor. Inhale, look up, lengthen the spine, maybe hands to the shins. Exhale to downward dog, but this is optional. You can skip this and just meet us on the floor. And then we come down to the floor, maybe putting the knees on the floor, and you're trying to again use that core control, lifting the navel up to the spine, pushing the floor away as we lower down towards the mat. Okay, so either way, in your own unique way, come down to the mat, onto your belly, and we're coming into a back bend here, the Sphinx. So bring the elbows underneath the shoulders, forearms parallel, spread the fingertips, and we're just looking kind of to the floor in front of the hands, keeping the spine, the neck spine neutral, in line with the rest of the spine. And then have a sense of, it's almost like you're trying to claw the floor towards you, pull the floor towards you without actually moving the arms. And as you do that, it's like a tractioning. You feel an increased stretch on the front body. And even here, in a back bend, we can still try and stay connected to our core by pressing down on the pubic bone. So rather than just allowing the buttocks and the lower back to overarch, we try and elongate the tailbone even here, pressing down on the pubic bone, lightly pressing through the toenails, and of course breathing deep. Trying to draw the tips of the shoulders back and allow the chest to move forward between the upper arm. Activate the muscles around the shoulder blades to draw them together down the spine. One more breath. And then exhale, lower down. Just take some rest, take the head onto the back of the hands, wobble the hips if you need to release the lower back. Just really relax the shoulders here and the lower back. Now, if you have very tight shoulders, you might need a strap handy for the next variation, and if you don't have a strap, it's fine, we don't need to use it. Okay, so we're going to do 2 variations of locust Shavasana. So for locust, we bring the forehead to the floor and we bring the hands to the sides, palms up. Again, try and elongate the tailbone, pressing down through the pubic bone. Draw the shoulders away from the ears, reaching back through the fingertips. And then on your inhale, you lift everything up. We lift the feet, we lift the hands, the chest, the head. Keep looking at the floor so the neck stays long. Reach and stretch the toes back. So this is not about height. It doesn't matter how high up off the floor we get. It's about length, reaching toes back, top of the head reaching forward, fingertips reaching back, and breath. Keep pressing down through the pubic bone. Breathe as fully as you can. Obviously you can't breathe into the lower belly easily, but into the upper chest, rib cage. Great for strengthening the back, which is really linked to core strength, and exhale, release. Just turn a cheek to the mat, let the shoulders relax. Again, wobble the hips if you need. Resting breaths. So you can just repeat that for our second variation, or there's an option, I'll just quickly show you, to interlace the hands and lift up, stretching the knuckles back. So if the shoulders are very tight and you can't interlace the hands, this is where you can use a strap, and instead of interlacing the fingers, you just hold onto the strap at whatever width you need and pull on the strap in opposite directions. It does the same thing. Okay, so either repeat classic Shavasana without the strap or knuckles, or it's just a deeper front opener, deeper shoulder or chest opener. We interlace the hands or take hold of the strap, and again, inhale, lift everything up. Lift the feet, the hands, the chest, the head. Keep the neck long by looking at the floor. And if you're interlacing the knuckles or holding the strap, stretch the knuckles to the wall behind you as you lift them up away from the body. And breathe deep into the upper chest, collarbone area. One more breath if you can. Use the breath to open your body from within, and exhale, release. Everything down. Turn the head to face the other way. Relax the lower back, maybe wobbling the hips, maybe even bending at the knees and windscreen wipering the legs if you feel like something's stuck in the lower back. This can help release. And just take a couple more nice, full, restful breaths. Okay, and to come out of this, we can use it as another chance to connect to our core strength. So bring your hands underneath your shoulders, lift up the feet and cross the ankles, and it's that sense of pressing the pubic bone down and lifting the navel to the spine, and then we press through the hands and we try and come up as best we can with the navel drawing back to the spine to keep the upper body in a straight line. It's like a reverse press up. And then just come up to a kneeling position. We're going to take a counter pose for the back bend seated. So come to kneel, drop the hips to the side and take your legs forward. Okay, so we're coming into a nice lower back opener. So Paschimottanasana, there's different ways of working with this. The forward fold. We can bend the knees as much as we need. You could even take a blanket or a bolster or something underneath the knees if the hamstrings are very tight. And we're going to inhale, stretch up the hands first, and then exhale. See if you can kind of, as best you can, hinge from the lower back. So if we're tight, we're probably just going to hinge in the upper back and not move this. So as best we can, we put our awareness in the lower back, and it's like you're stretching up and slightly forward with the chest first, then bringing the hands down to whatever they meet, and then take another inhale to lengthen out of the lower back, draw the shoulders back, chest moves forward, and then we can just drop the head. So we just take those 2 breaths to come in, to try and put a tension in the lower back, and then we drop the head and allow ourselves to stretch the upper back as well. So we're going to take at least 5 good slow deep breaths here with the knees as bent as they need. If we're very tight, we might be almost upright, but as long as we're feeling this stretch on the back of the legs and maybe the lower back, then that's great. You know, it doesn't matter what we look like. It's about how present we are, how fully we're breathing, and that we're at that edge. Okay, keep the legs active by flexing the feet, toes to the ceiling, trying to square off the feet here. Try not to let the soles collapse towards each other. Take one more full deep breath here. And then slowly coming back up. And we're going to move into a seated twist. So to the best of your ability, just pick up the right sole of the foot and bring the heel close to the buttock. If you can, hook it to the outside of the left knee. It might need to be a little bit further forward, but over time moving it back so it's outside the knee. This just gets into the outer hip as well. But if you can't do that, just keep it close in to the inside of the left leg. Take your right hand behind you as your prop, your support. Keep the left leg active, toes to the ceiling. Inhale, stretch up through the left side, and then we twist from the navel towards the bent leg, towards the right, and just hug the right knee into the crook of the left elbow, and turn your head, complete the twist by turning to look towards or over your right shoulder. Keep awareness in the left leg, pushing out through the heel, toes up. And breathe deep here, spacious breaths as you can. One more deep breath, inhaling to find length through the spine. Exhaling, perhaps deepening the twist from the navel though. And at the end of the exhale, release, turn to face forward, and just swap sides. So take the right leg forward, and again your options are to just draw that left heel back as close to the buttock as possible, or if it's available for your knee, for your hip, the hip's open enough, take it to the outside of the right knee. Push out through the right heel, toes to the ceiling, left hand behind you as your prop. Inhale, extend, find length and space along the right side, and then twist from the navel again towards the bent leg and hug the knee into the crook of the elbow. If you're doing this practice regularly and you start to get more open in the twists, the next stage is to take the elbow beyond the knee and kind of press the elbow into the outer left thigh, the palm facing forward, but don't force it. What we're looking for most of all is an ability to breathe fully in the twist. It's always harder to breathe in twist, but trying to find some sense of spaciousness here, lifting the chest, lifting the crown of the head, dropping down through the pelvis. One more deep inhale and complete exhale. And at the end of the exhale, turning to face the front and releasing. And we're going to come down onto our backs to finish. So this is where you might need a block. So at this point in the practice, Cathie and Pete wanted to work on different things. So if you're wanting to work more on strength and core connection, if you're quite a bendy open person already, then you might want your brick here, and I'm going to show you both options. But if you're working more with tight body and you're just trying to open your body, we'll work in a different way. You could do both. So first of all, this is more the strength for those who are quite open but need to build strength and core connection. So take your brick between the thighs, squeeze the block with your thighs, and this squeezing actually activates our deep core muscles. Heels are close into the buttocks, and we're going to do 5 pulses. We're going to inhale, lift the hips, keep squeezing, exhale, lower. So you're not going to come up really high, it's not really possible if we're squeezing hard, but we're activating deep core, working with the breath. 3, inhaling up, keep squeezing, exhaling lower. Inhale, squeeze, lift up. You can do this without a block as well. You can just do the 5 pulses if you don't have a block, and you can feel like you're squeezing a block, that sense of adduction. When you come up for your last time, you can just hold, squeezing the breath, just having the hands on the floor, maybe interlacing the fingers, but just keep squeezing, breathing into the front body, and then release. So instead of that, or as well as that, at this point in the practice, so Pete, I'm talking to you, you're not going to use the brick. Whilst Cathie's doing that, you're just having the heels close to the buttocks, palms down, and then you just simply inhale, lift up as high as you can go. See if you can keep elongating that tailbone, connecting to the core, and then with your hands keep pressing into the floor, or if it's possible, you kind of roll to one side to draw the opposite shoulder underneath, and then roll to that side and draw the other shoulder underneath. So eventually we're actually on the upper, we're on the shoulders, not the upper back. But that might not happen immediately. So you can always just continue pressing down through the hands. Press through the feet and breathe fully into the front body here. We're getting a lovely front body opener, opening the front of the thighs and the hips and the chest. And then when you've done about 5 breaths, lowering down, this goes for whichever variation you chose, we lower down from the upper back to the lower back, kind of winding the spine down, placing the sacrum, that lowest part of the spine, down on the floor, consciously shuffling the shoulders back, taking the feet forward and mat distance apart, and just letting the inner knees rest against each other. And just take some resting breaths here. Breathing into the lower back that we've just compressed, just feeling space, arriving into the lower back again. Deep restful breaths. Okay, so we're going to finish our class this morning with an inversion. And again, different options here. So if you're working more with tightness, especially in the hamstrings and the lower back to the legs and the lower back, you're going to take your strap, and again, if you don't have a strap, you can do it without, or you can use anything as a strap, a dressing gown, belt, or a tie, or a scarf, but also you can just use your hands. But if you have a strap, you have the luxury of a strap, we're going to take the strap around the widest part of the feet, stretch the legs up into the air, and again, if you're practicing this yourself at home, you can do both options. I'm just showing both because Cathie and Pete are working with different things here. So this is for the tight bodies that want to open. It's like we're pushing the strap away with the balls of the feet, trying to open the soles of the feet, drawing the toes to the shins and stretching up through the heels. So you should feel this stretch on the back of the legs. Obviously, if we're very tight, bending the knees as much as we need. And you might not be able to bring the legs totally to vertical, that's fine. So just find your edge, take some nice, slow, deep breaths, at least 5. And if you can, try and go to at least 10, because we're also getting an inversion here. The blood's flowing down the legs the opposite way, which is really good for us and needs a bit of time to get the benefit. So look to do at least 10 breaths eventually in this posture. Okay, so just keep going with that if that's your choice. Otherwise, another option, you could do both, or this is for Cathie, who doesn't need the opening so much, if you're a bendy person, but you just want to experience structural integrity and inversion. We can take our yoga brick on any of its, well, I wouldn't put it on the highest height actually, lowest or mid setting on the sacrum. So that's that bony plate just above the buttocks, so that you feel that you can really be supported and trust your brick. And then one at a time, we take the legs up, and this is our inversion. It's called Vipariti Karani, and we just work on strength here. So we're getting the benefits of the inversion, we're also getting a stretch on the back of the legs, but we're also getting a nice opening in the lower back. But I want you to really work on keeping the legs active, so pushing out through the heels, flexing the feet, toes to the shin, and still, even here, connecting to your core. Drawing on the pelvic floor, drawing the navel down towards the spine, so you feel like almost you're pressing the navel down into the spine. And again, you're looking for 10 breaths. Okay, so just this is a bit of space in the practice for some kind of inversion, one of these two, or of course an inversion of your choice if you're practicing at home and have other inversions in your practice. But these are 2 beginner, accessible inversions. Get the legs in the air, get the heart above the head. And after 10 breaths or so, whichever option you've chosen, we're going to release the legs back down to the floor. If you're on the brick, one at a time, release the feet, press through the feet, let the brick come out the way, take it to the side, slowly lower the sacrum down. And we're almost ready for our final resting posture, Shavasana. But it can feel nice to just do one more posture here, or 2 more postures. So I would recommend a twist and then a symmetrical posture. So from here, just bend the knees, take the feet down to the floor, press through the feet and just scoot the hips over to the right, maybe like a centimetre or so, And then just allow the knees to come over to the left. And you might, if you're very tight in the hips, you might need a bolster or a blanket or a brick or something to support that lower leg. You might also need a blanket between the thighs if the thighs don't come together. And then you can extend the arms out in line with the shoulders, and you can turn to look over your right shoulder, or I often like to rest my left, in this case my left hand on my right thigh. So just take some slow, deep, releasing breaths. So really drawing the breath out fully now. Deep inhale, complete exhale. About 5 breaths each side. And then find your core awareness. Draw the navel to the spine as you inhale the legs back to the centre. Press down through the feet. And again, scoop the hips back to the centre and then over to the left a centimetre. So we're offsetting the hips. Allow the knees to come down to the right. Find support under the knees if you need it, or between the thighs, and look out over your left shoulder. Right hand can rest on the outer left thigh. Breathe deep. Releasing breaths. And then at the end of your last exhale, come back to the centre with that core awareness again, so drawing navel to spine. Press through the feet to bring the hips back to the centre. Check we're centrally aligned. And I like to, after an asymmetrical posture like that, I like to finish with a symmetrical posture. And this could be drawing the knees into the chest, holding, interlacing the hands on the front of the shin, or just holding the back of the knees. Or it could be a happy baby, holding the outer edges of the feet, knees wide, or ankles if you can't find the feet, or even back of the knees. So one of those two options. If you're hugging the knees into the chest, just take some nice full breaths, and on the last breath just lift the head up to squeeze up to the knees and press everything into the centre. So squeeze the arms into the legs, squeeze the head up to the knees, flex the feet, tight, tight, tight. And then after that final burst of energy, we're ready for Shavasana. So this is our rest pose. Shavasana means corpse pose, so we become like a corpse. It's a really important part of the practice. It's very easy to skip it. Please try not to. Even if you just manage a minute here, it's going to really help you integrate the practice and let your body change more quickly, transform more quickly, building muscle memory. It needs, after the work, it needs that rest to integrate, to build this mind-muscle connection, and to percolate all that work. So just come to complete rest. If the lower back is tight, consider having a bolster under the knees to just slightly bend the knees. Make sure you're warm. Blankets, maybe put something over the eyes. So our body position here, we check we're centrally aligned, and we take the feet just slightly wider than the hips and let the feet flop out to the side. We take the arms away from the side slightly and have the palms facing up. So Shavasana is a yoga posture that has a specific form, so try and make that form, obviously modifying if you need. And Cathie, you know to modify by coming onto your side if you need. So always be comfortable. And just let go of any breath technique. Just let the breath be natural. Let go of muscle effort. Just feel the muscles relax and be supported on the floor. Relax the face and the jaw and the eyes. And just maybe give yourself a little scan around the body, just seeking out any areas of tension that might be resisting letting go. Maybe in the upper back or shoulders, maybe around particular injuries you have, maybe there's still guarding patterns. Just see if you can invite held tension to let go. Just another minute or so. Checking that the belly is soft and relaxed. Stillness, relaxation. And then because you're at home, if you have longer and you're feeling really good here, just stay as long as you like. The longer the better. Just carve out that time in your day for stillness and rest. Is so beneficial, as well as the active part of yoga. But if you're finishing with me, we've got like a half an hour or so part of your day to practice. We're going to slowly come out of this. So just reconnecting to the breath, deepening the breath, bringing small movements back to the body, fingers and toes, maybe just gently rolling the head side to side to just reawaken the neck. And then if you need any deeper stretches, just kind of feel this for yourself. Your body might just want to reawaken fully by taking a full body stretch like we do in the morning. Stretching out behind us through the hands, pressing into the heels and the toes and the feet. And then you might just also want to just bring the knees into the chest. So one last hug, maybe a little rock side to side. So just whatever feels good. And then we're going to close the class together seated. So rather than just kind of throwing yourself up, I recommend just rolling to one side, even just taking a couple of breaths on the side. So we just come up in stages, keeping the nervous system settled, and then push up, come back to seated, and then we're just going to consciously close the class, as well as taking time for Shavasana. It's always good to just have some kind of your own little ritual to consciously close the class before you go back into your busy life off the mat. So it can be just as simple as closing the eyes and just acknowledging yourself in gratitude for practicing today, gratitude to your body. You might wish to draw the palms together at the centre of the chest, which is a kind of mudra, hand position of respect and honouring and gratitude to yourself, to the yoga practice. And maybe dedicating the fruits of your practice to an intention for the day, or an intention for yourself, a part of the body that you're working with, healing or aspect of your life. So just in your own way, closing the class. And when you feel complete, the eyes are closed, you kind of consciously open them, let the world back in again. And thank you for practicing with me. Namaste. Hope to see you again soon.